Bam. All right. So, new episode of the Inspired Disorder podcast. I'm here as always with Keith Spurlock. How you doing, Keith? Oh, and of course I didn't turn your... There you go. Now, Keith, you can talk.
No, I don't want to now.
All right. So, Keith doesn't want to talk, which is great for a podcast. And we're also joined by the one and only Rich Walker from San Diego artist, local to me, not local to Keith. How you doing, Rich?
Not too bad. I don't want to talk either, so it's going to be the worst show ever.
Sweet, guys. You get to listen to me all day. So I woke up a
Carry
little
the
late.
load. We're going to listen. We're along for the ride.
Yeah. So
wow me, Ray.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. So Rich and I don't know when we first met. I know back when I did a few art shows back in the day, back in like 08 or whatever it was. We had done
08 or 07, 08 or 07.
Yeah. We had done a show at Bar Basic downtown. I remember that one. I don't know if we had done any other shows together. So we're both friends with Jill. Different Jill.
Yeah, Super Jill Johnson.
Yeah.
Who's now up in San Francisco making a run of it up there again. So she's got herself back on track. She was working for that Raw Art Society, or the Raw Art, that group.
Yeah.
And I got her. She's kind of back up and running this more super stuff a little bit. So.
Yeah, which actually I had done.
Yeah, 208. You're right. You're right on the 208.
Okay, cool. Yes.
So there.
I get a point, Keith.
One other one up there at the North Park. One of her street events.
Oh yeah. Was that the outdoor one?
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, we've known well, I don't know, we met like once. We don't really know each other, but we know similar people. We follow each other on Facebook. We stalk each other. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself, Rich. When did you start doing art? And for those that are listening that would like to go look at his artwork, what is the website again? Raw Art Design?
It's rawartdesign.net currently, and I'll be changing that over to the .com here probably in the next 2 months. A friend and I are rebuilding the website.
Sweet. Awesome.
So then, and I got a little workshop up in off of Miramar Road, 8650 Miramar Road. So if anybody ever wanted to stop by and take a look at the work live and personal, I've got a place up here. So pretty good workshop. But yeah, I'm an artist in San Diego. Been producing art for years, probably going on about 12 years or so, self-taught, and I try to stay focused on the reclaimed, recycled, and repurposed materials. And I love color and texture, and then depth, and kind of like how that all reacts with each other, and like the style of movement that it might create. So it's kind of me in a nutshell of sort.
So what got you into it initially?
Well, I suppose, it's always funny. Like, you think about it as an artist, you're an artist as a kid, but you always kind of had other responsibilities and other things you did. I always drew and I always painted. I got arrested when I was 16 years old for doing some graffiti. So, I mean, I've been active as an artist since I was a kid, but okay. I never thought I never really qualified myself as an artist. I was always just somebody producing art.
Uh-huh.
And it was a few years back when my daughter got old enough. She was 18, and I said, well, it's time to kind of really just kind of take a shot at doing something that I had always wanted to do. So now I actually qualify myself as an artist.
That's awesome. So how old were you when you kind of decided to focus more on the art?
Probably like this in my 30s. So
okay.
Right around 35 thereabouts.
Nice.
So I'm 102 now. So.
Which you sound great. You don't sound a year over 90. So
Exactly right. Yeah. I don't sound a minute over 80.
Yeah. So you're getting younger by the second, man.
Exactly. Cool. It's technology, Well,
I only ask because I'm kind of refocusing on art and trying to get out there and sell it and produce more work. And I'm 30. How old am I? 33. How old am I, Keith? Just as a point of comparison, it's interesting that we were around the same age, man, when we started focusing more on the art. When you started getting into it, were you did you want to do the reclaimed and repurposed wood? Was it like the style you have now? Was that kind of how you started?
Yeah, pretty much. It was sort of, it's funny. My name is Richard Anthony Walker. And so when I was just a kid, I used to go by that raw art design, or the raw kind of acronym.
Yeah.
And then when I, like the very first Earth Day, I planted a tree. And then when I was a kid, there was a little commercial, the give a hoot, don't pollute kind of thing. So I've always been into it,
Yeah.
the recycling stuff. So it's not just a trend or a kind of a, hey, it's unique, or it's the trend kind of thing. I've always been into it. So, and then for kind of a self-taught artist, the painting on wood was easy and fairly inexpensive.
Yeah.
You know, so I didn't have to go out and spend $100 on oil paints and canvases and brushes. I could focus on some stuff that was accessible and free. So it allowed me to be very experimental. So rather than be kind of all locked into the conformity of, I got to be real careful what I do with this $100 investment.
Yeah.
I could just kind of get into it and kind of play. So
Yeah, you know, just sand it down and start over again.
exactly, but throw it away. You know what I mean? It was
Or
sort of
that.
like, you know, like you
Yeah.
weren't really limited. Like if you took, you know, $100 investment of brand new paints and so forth, and thought you didn't like it and you just wrecked it, and you know, you're out the money. So it was real. It was a nice liberating way to kind of start and kind of really kind of refocus, or kind of put myself in a direction.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny, like with you getting back into your art, and it's been like now, in the last 2 years, you're really kind of refocusing, it seems, you know, or even the last 7 months.
Yeah.
There's been a drastic push for you, which is nice to see.
Yeah.
I really like the way that your work's evolved lately.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I basically took right after, because I was living in Hillcrest when we had done the shows in North Park and Bar Basic and things like that. And around that time, I was moving again and was in the process of trying to find a place just to buy, since the economy was in the shitter, and you know, a friend of mine was in the real estate business, so I was taking advantage of the opportunity to like find a place where I can be permanent and not have to move every year. So when that all happened, I took a break from art. You know, because I put everything in storage, and I was just renting a room so I could save money from a friend of mine that I work with, and you know, just trying to save money and get everything squared away so I could buy a place. And now that I'm here, it's been really tough getting back into it, and podcasting has always been that creative outlet for me while I wasn't doing art. So now, you know, everything's kind of moving towards you know, get that push back and start making new work. And you know, I have room to work now, and you know, I don't know, it feels very just things are just rolling naturally, and it feels good. I enjoy it, man. I've fucking done more shows now than I did before, and I'm making more art now than I was, and trying new things, and I want to start getting into wood and things like that. And I always knew your work always had like a very unique, like, I mean, your style fit your name, Raw, you know, and it all worked well together, and you had like, there's like a warmth and a heart to your work that I enjoy. And it's, you know, we were talking earlier today, and you actually had mentioned that, you know, you were kind of thinking of just wiping the slate clean and starting fresh.
Yeah, that's sort of, it's interesting. I really kind of, I don't know, I hit a curve, or like I hit so much a wall, but sort of a realization that, you know, like when you were saving money to buy a house, and you put your art on hold for a little while, and you had responsibilities, and we take care of those things, you often just put yourself on a track that you don't know you're on.
Yeah.
You know, you're sort of like a train or a locomotive going in a direction. And yes, it's purposeful, and yes, it's okay, the ride's all right, but it's not exactly where you wanted to go. You know, the freedom of being able to, you know, like rather than be on the train track, to be in your own vehicle and take a right or a left whenever you feel like you want to.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'd like to do. So I've got I work all the time, and I kind of like the accolades. Like when people say, what? They see the volume of work that I produce. It's always nice, but I enjoy doing it. But it's sort of, I'd like to move what I have and really kind of free up my, like, the idea that I want to do more sort of, and I'll say it like explosive work, maybe, like where I want to be able to approach it with a more dominant vigor, like rather than be so, even though I'm very sort of free as I throw or as I move the paint, I really want to get bigger. I want it to become more sort of cathartic and just be, put a little bit, not quite possibly rage, but something like that. It's just a little bit more personality and a little bit more oomph into it, and even the mass or the scale in which I'd like to work. I've got a pretty good large shop up here in Miramar, and I'd really like to kind of, challenge instead of being so, I'm producing art in my living room and I can only do this big, I really have the opportunity to do something big, almost monumental in a manner. So, so I'm kind of trying to focus on doing that. I've got furniture that I build and some other like kind of odds and ends. Like people have, hired me to build like stuff for weddings, and so I've got a lot of random things that I'd like to move along that don't really have a purpose or a place for me right now, and I'd like to kind of be able to have the freedom and that liberty to kind of challenge myself to do something kind of just big, know. And it doesn't have to be giant in scale. It just needs to be big. It needs to have that, I don't know, that feeling. So I'm kind of looking to get into that first lately. So yeah.
So what was the point where you decided that's what you wanted to do, where you wanted to make the change?
Well, last year, 2013 for me, it was probably the weirdest year I've ever had in my whole life. I lost real good friends. I lost a long-term relationship with my girlfriend, and my daughter and her family, who had been close to me for years, moved to Texas. So it was a really interesting, and again, like in a bad manner, I guess, an interesting year where, life seems to give you the banana peel, and I just kept jumping on it,
Yeah.
And so during that stress and that period of pain and hurt and so forth, I decided it was time for me to do what I wanted to do, as opposed to what I maybe had to do or what I felt I had to do.
Yeah.
So So during the year last year, probably near about July, the relationship ended in June, and so it was a bunch of things I had to go through and think about. So even probably up into October was where I just really started getting focused on the idea of it's time to do something else.
Nice.
So I'd say that would be the time frame.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Keith, recently started doing stand-up about a year and a half, 2 years ago?
Year and a half. And then last year, my girlfriend of a long time left.
Yeah.
Just like last year for Ray, or the year before.
Yes,
for
2
Ray.
years. It's definitely when you have that kind of loss. It's whether it's
just
the loss.
Fuck it, let's go for broke.
Yeah.
I'm sick of working for other people. I want to do what, I want to express myself and do what makes me happy. And if I can make money doing it, I'm gonna try my damnedest to make that a reality, because very few people get to do what makes them happy and make money at it.
Well, very few people decide to just do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's not even, it's like just deciding to do it and really trying to keep the money out of it. It's a necessity seemingly all the time. But, if you keep the idea on what is it that you want to do, the comedy is a passion, and just deliver it, and then just kind of go for broke. And it is that thing, not a lot of people have the opportunity, because not a lot of people have the guts, the nuts, the bravery to kind of decide to just do it, go for broke, it's cool. I'm glad you're saying that as a comedian, because it's an imperative in that field.
Yeah, there's like 80,000 people. There's like 80,000 people in my town, and there's 2 comics out of 80,000.
You can. So hey, at worst, you're the second best comedian in town.
Almost guaranteed.
Exactly.
At best, you're the best, right? And at best, you're the best. I'm the absolute best comedian in town, right?
At the very worst, I'm getting silver.
Yeah.
Say that again.
I said at the very worst, I'm getting a silver medal.
Exactly, right? And, like Bodie Miller came in like 6th or 7th place, and he missed it. He missed first place by less than a second. And people are giving him shit. It's like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Less than a second. A half a second. That's, you can't fart in a half a second. And that's enough to call the guy a loser, So silver medal is perfect.
Yeah.
80,000 people. If you're in the Boston Marathon and you got the silver, it's incredible. So keep at it. I used to do stand-up years ago.
No way.
It was one of the
Really?
first things I started doing. Yeah, I performed for probably 6 years and traveled around, did, quite a bit of comedy here locally. At one period of time, there was 5 or 6 different comedy clubs in San Diego, and I performed up into San Francisco and out to Chicago and different stuff, and it was, interesting, and I look at that as something I miss. There's definitely a thing. You got to really commit yourself to the idea. You tell a joke, no matter what it is, tell it, and it's a performance. It's not, I can't hold you accountable to being a sexist or a racist or, you're telling a joke for a particular purpose, so there's those things. So there's a commit to it. Keep with it.
It's definitely a crazy lifestyle, and just the people that you're around. Like, I don't know, I assume that it's probably a lot the same in the artist community. Just kind of fringe people who are a little bit off, and since most comedy shows happen at places they serve alcohol, a lot of us drink a lot.
A lot. Yeah.
So
I did most of my performances sober.
I usually have a couple beers in me, but
it's one of the things I look back, like I would have liked to have drank more when I did stand up for that simplicity of the, if we're both sitting in the same room and we're both having a drink, there's no sort of, it's like we're on the same page.
Yeah.
But if there's a reason I decided not to, and I'm up there, then you might sense that, like as an audience member. Why isn't this guy part of our club? Why is he hanging out on the other side of the fence yelling shit at us?
Well, a lot of guys will open their one beer up and go on stage with it and maybe take a couple sips. So it appears like they're drinking, and they are. Right. But I mean,
they are. But it puts you on the same team. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, oh yeah, I don't care. I'm going to cheer for this guy. He's on my team. Like the little kid out in the outfield who can't catch the ball. He's still on your team, and you applaud him when he does anything, But if he was on the other team, you'd boo him, that kind of thing. So, yeah. I don't know. It's a fun activity. Hey, Ray, I've got a show. We got a show coming up on the 23rd of March. I'd invite you into it if you'd like to. It's a one-night event downtown that I'll send you the details for.
Hell yeah, man. Let me know.
Yeah, it'd be a good one for you.
Sweet.
Good group of people are going to attend. We're going to push it pretty well. So
where at downtown is it?
It's at Absolute Perfection. It's an actual automotive detail company.
Okay.
And but it's really big, and they work on the high-end cars, and they do some real fancy space. But the space itself will hold 800 people.
Oh wow.
So we've got we're going to present everything on easels, and we've got a lot of space to do a lot of stuff, and the event itself will run from 4 to 10,
mm-hmm.
and it's going to be a metal theme with the band Dying to Wake.
Okay.
It's going to be the band and a DJ, Johnny Tran. You're familiar with him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Johnny from the Basic Days.
Yeah.
So he's going to be DJ for that event, and there's a couple other artists as well. So
sweet.
Yeah. Got beer from Rock Bottom, and it's going to be a good event.
Sweet, yeah, man. Send me the details, and I'll get my ass working on some shit.
Yeah. And again, like you if you got, whatever it is,
yeah,
to have a space, I'll make sure you do. So that'll be a good one.
Sweet. So you did stand up for 6 years, and in what clubs did you like Comedy Store at all? La Jolla Comedy Store, was that around back then?
Comedy. Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, I always like to look at it. The very first time I did stand-up, I went to the Improv up in Santa Monica.
Okay.
And I went for their, they have an open mic, and you go there for their, in front of Bud Freeman, and you do your stand-up and see if they'll put you on the traveling circuit. So it was kind of funny. Like, I went up there with a girlfriend of mine who was an actress at the time, and she was like, "Are you nervous?" I was like, no, I've been talking about, these jokes for a while. And I went up there and did my little thing, and I got, other people who had been doing stand-up for 10 years, 15 years, and all this stuff, and they were like, it was their first time standing up in front of the guy, trying to get on their circuit. And I was like, well, I didn't, I was like, I hadn't thought of it like that. I was just like, I'm just going to try it.
Yeah.
So I did well enough that he said, keep it up, and he had asked how long I've been performing, and I told him the first night. He kind of looked at me like I was a little goofy. So I did the Improv, like a small little couple of sets for them and a couple of the shows, and then came down to the Comedy Store and started doing that. The Top Hat that used to be down in Croce's, and then the Bonita Club, and then over in Coronado, I can't remember the name of that one, and then the one over in PB at the Hyatt. That was the Laugh Factory. So, we had at one time, 6, 7. There was another one in Oceanside. There's quite a few comedy clubs in San Diego for a little while.
So how much time? Yeah, there's American Comedy Company is pretty awesome. Madhouse. Yeah. I've been getting the past couple years. I've been getting into comedy a lot, not to perform, but just in general. But so, how much time did you have when your first time on stage?
They gave me the obligatory 3 to 5 minutes. Then
that's the best thing ever, that he did not pass you, that you didn't have like a flash in the pan miraculous great set right offhand. Because if he'd have put you on the road after your first set, that'd have been the scariest shit ever.
I'd have got killed.
Yeah.
I'd have got killed because it was like I had a couple of jokes.
Yeah.
I had a couple of jokes, and I used to think I was a cerebral comedian. Like, I wanted to be smart. I wanted to be that kind of thing. And it's not really, and it's interesting. Like, so the years afterwards that I performed and kind of flying around town, and, there was a couple nights where you do 5 sets in one night. You get 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and you just leave one location, go to the next, which, like we were talking, comedians, we drink, and so they wouldn't pay you. They would give you 2 free drinks. So, at the end of the night, you've had your 8 to 10 drinks, and, you got to sleep in your truck, and it's like, what a mess, So, I had responsibilities. I had a family. So it was like it was quite a lot of work and quite a lot of sort of a change that I went through. So I stopped drinking while I was running around town. I didn't want to be in any trouble. And then, I got my set up to 45 minutes.
Wow.
I did a show in Chicago. They had headlined me over a weekend, and that was good. But it was the first time out of San Diego or out of California that I had done stand-up. And they weren't too, they didn't like me too much. I was too Californian. And long hair, high tops, those old, what do they call some jeans, the baggy jeans or whatever the hell they were called, and I just looked like some surf kid, and they didn't like me. The girls liked me well enough, but the guys were like, "What the fuck are you doing up there?" So
they're intimidated.
That's funny. I bombed that show.
Yeah. That's a different feeling when you're up there telling jokes and jokes that have killed other people, and then you tell it to a sea of crickets, and you just got to keep on going.
Exactly.
And
I love right? Looking back historically, I love it because they, like even the band that was sitting there beside me that could have helped me out, I asked them and they were like, no. Like literally, just like if I had turned around and said, "Could you pass me the salt?" and you were like, "No."
Yeah.
I was like, "Fuck, I'm up here dying." It was good. And I had, and it was filmed. It was bright. I was like, "Oof." I wouldn't look back on it. I would just see who's the guy dying up there. But
that shit makes you a stronger person, though.
Makes you a better. You kind of just take a look at it, and then once I realized, I had those jokes work very well. And then, was it me just being nervous or just completely out of place, so far as, I had traveled there. Some of my the arrangements got a little squirrely, like my resume, like I was like, what? So I don't know if I was just thrown, and, not having, come in from my car. I don't know. Like it was a very good learning curve. And they came back to San Diego, this area, and they started, buckling down and trying to broaden my humor too as well, and start make it like inner child or divorce or some others, very sort of almost too quiet. I mean, some of the jokes were good, but they were quiet. Like they didn't have like the shtick. But I'm kind of a shtick guy. Like I like telling people to fuck off of sort instead of I'd really like you to move. That's but that's the jokes I used to tell. Changing the style.
So what were your what were your comic inspirations or whatever back when you were doing comedy? Like was there a comic or that kind of got you started thinking about doing it, or?
Well, years back, I mean, it was always like George Carlin, kind of that guy, and Eddie Murphy. Like when I was Eddie Murphy and I are about the same age. And he did stand-up. I had wanted to be a comedian as a young kid, and I saw him live, and he killed the room, and I was like, oh, there's no way I can be that good. So I stopped doing it. And it was, 20 years later before I ever, thereabouts, like something like, I was into my late 20s before I decided that I'm going to try it, And so it was kind of interesting. But then, like, following comedians like Bill Hicks and, a few others that are just, they're just out there rambling and just talking. And there was a couple of Boston comedians like Leno, seen him when he was younger, and Kevin Sweeney, and he was this very theatrical comedian, but could kill a room. So yeah, I wanted to do it, and then so those were kind of influences.
Mm-hmm. Do you still get out to comedy clubs ever? Watch, you follow anybody currently?
Yeah, not really anybody particularly. Like it, though, it's because comedy, I mean, is very secular. For 10 years, like every 10 years or so, it's the one thing you do. Like if you had a date tonight, you say, "Hey, want to go to the comedy store? That comedian's in town."
Yeah.
So it goes around for like 4 or 5 years, and then it kind of dissipates. If you look back historically, Rodney Dangerfield, another comedian that I watched when I was a kid. And, he'd fill a room, come out there, hey, it's okay. Like, he would just come out and do this thing, but then you'd see him, you'd be like, rocking clubs and events, and then you don't hear from him for 5 years, and then all of a sudden they come back. So it's got a very secular kind of behavior to it, but yeah. So I haven't, I've been inundated with being an artist, and sort of refocusing myself. So, but it is something I want to broaden. I'd love to do like a stand-up routine while painting.
That would be crazy.
Yeah. And sort of like, kind of like almost, like being a bartender, but standing up on stage, painting and telling jokes.
Yeah.
And just kind of like, so it's almost a performance, like where you have the opportunity, like where you're really involved with the painting, but yet you come across something you think is funny and it's just time to share. So it'd be a really hard thing to keep the audience kind of feeling like they're involved with if you went into so you'd have to, so then, you paint, so it'd be an interesting thing, but it's a thing I'd like to try at some point.
Yeah.
And I'm good. That's my new thing. I'm going to do it.
There you go.
I actually, there was a metal band, it was kind of local around Cleveland, 7-8 years back, called Caligo, and they had an artist in this metal band, and I mean it was pretty hardcore fucking metal too, and the dude would just make a painting, and usually the theme would be whatever bigger band that they were opening for, or they would just do their own thing, like a few of my friends, and then you could buy the painting after the show.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I always the music was really good, and it was just something cool to watch, through their whole set, this dude just make a painting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, so those are always kind of a, interesting job. I've done it up at the Belly Up, and I've gone up there for a couple different bands and painted live and did that same thing. There was I wished I could remember the name of it, but they were doing the electric violin and some synthesizer and kind of the cajon drum kind of thing. So their arrangement was really unique. Mm-hmm. So the sounds that they created were really kind of almost tribal, but yet they had this almost folk tone to it. So I was it kind of fits the style of my art, where it's kind of colors, textures, and so forth, so I could kind of play in there, and it was kind of good. It was a nice event, but I made too much of a mess for the Belly Up.
Yeah, it's hard to be clean and tidy when you're making art.
Well, when you're performing, like
too.
when you like if if the desired effect is to, I can't imagine the amount of mess I could make if I was meddling out and producing art.
Yeah. There was a few main bands that got a little upset because there was a little bit of paint. How the main band will set up their drum kit, and that should be up there the whole night, but it'll be covered. Yeah, so that there were a few bands that got a little upset, little shit on the keyboard or whatnot.
Yeah, and so you'd almost have to have your own stage and wall it off a little bit, but that'd be fun. That'd be definitely a fun thing to do.
Yeah, it'd be crazy.
You gonna make a point to come out to San Diego anytime soon? Stand up.
Yeah, I'm trying. I got to get my fucking money situation around, and I don't actually drive right now, or haven't for the last 3 years. So that's a problem.
Yeah.
Is that a choice, out of curiosity? Because it's one of the things I'm thinking about doing. I've got a little pickup truck, and I'm thinking about selling it and just going to a bicycle. And
no, this is not by choice. This is because I don't live in a place where there's any public transportation at all, really. And I got into a really bad car accident and was thrown out and fucked my face up and shit. But so I had a little PTSD from that.
Okay.
And riding in cars is terrifying. I've driven a couple times since, and so I'm ready to get my license back because I'm not scared when I'm driving, but when anyone else is driving, it fucking freaks me out to no end.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so
it was kind of a wild one. Was that was you? Were you the passenger in that accident?
No, I was the driver, and I was. I don't really remember it happening. I'll just put it that way.
All right.
I was hammered.
Yeah, that can happen, right? Can we talk about that a little bit more? I've always found it funny or just interesting that as an adult, I consider myself smart. I consider myself very caring of you and him and her and them and everyone, But there have been times where I've gotten behind the wheel drunk. And other people have said, hey, let me drive you home. And I argued with them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've run a bar. I got a bar called Last Call over in the college area that I used to manage and have a partnership in. And I would talk to people every night. Hey, let me call you a cab. No. And it'd been like, you're a reasonable person. Like, there's just that thing about alcohol and our intellect or lack thereof when we're drinking that we just decide to do it. Not in a judgment manner, but it's just that, like, I always hated myself when I would find that I had actually driven.
Yeah.
Because right now, if you said, here, you're drunk, drive, I'd be like, no way. I'll sleep right here. I'll get a piggyback ride home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll skip if I had to, but rather than drive. But drunk, I'll argue with you. And all you're doing is asking. I've always found that hard to understand is that an ego-based thing for us, or like, why do people who drink argue with people who are trying to help them?
Yeah.
The very first thing I said when I woke up in the hospital was, or once they told me what happened, that I got into an accident, first thing I said was, did I hurt anyone?
Yeah.
Right.
Like that to me was like, because, obviously I had sobered up some or enough to come out of my blackout. Because they said I was conscious for a long time before I remember. But right. That was that's scary, and I went through that. Like this was my second DUI. My first DUI, I literally like shoved someone out of the way who was trying to stop me from driving. I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what do you
Good.
think? So, what do you think it is? Do you think it's ego, or
It is. It
do
is.
you think it's the
It's
alcohol
definitely
itself?
ego. Well, I mean, it's both, but I mean, I think the alcohol really brings the ego out. You're like, no, I can do
Well, it
this. I'm
does,
not
right? Right?
Yeah, you're like, I'm not a fucking baby. Well, that's why there's fights in bars. It really inflates the ego, and someone bumps into you, and you're like, fuck you, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you fucking stabbing a guy with a beer bottle.
Right.
Yeah.
I hate when I do that. That's always
Yeah.
one of the things I hated doing. That's why I don't drink on Tuesdays. 'Cause it seems like Tuesdays and stabbing people with bottles are just
Get real
fucking
stabby
go-to.
on Tuesdays.
Yeah. Well, there's not really a whole lot else to do on Tuesdays, so might as well stab somebody if you're
Yeah,
drinking.
it might be the karaoke bar, right? It's just fucking grating on you all night. So I'm going to smash a ball and stab somebody. Not that I want to, just that you need to.
Yeah, I'm drunk, and there just happens to be this stabby-licious bottle sitting next to me that looks.
You're like, did you know
They
it was
shouldn't
the
make
full moon
bottles so
tonight?
easy to break.
Yeah,
Fucking-
yeah. I
It's a
think
full
it's
moon, guys.
it's got to be like an ego thing, man. I mean, people make really bad decisions when they're drunk. I know I make a lot of bad decisions when I'm drunk, and driving used to be one of those when I used to go out to bars and shit. And it's you would think that, I don't know, it shuts down that part of your brain that like rationalizes your decision making.
Yeah, bad text makes you send really bad texts sometimes in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
and
right.
You wake up and you go through. You're like, oh, alcohol, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Why'd you do that? I've always felt like it's funny, you have to wear seatbelts.
Uh-huh.
You have to wear helmets when you're riding bikes, all these things. But yet they sell cigarettes and they sell alcohol.
Yeah.
It's like, you stop doing these things, and okay, maybe the seatbelt makes sense. Or like any other restrictions, any sort of common, you can't jaywalk. But I'm an adult. I looked both ways, and nobody was coming. I fucking walked across the road. You're giving me a ticket, but yet, you're letting that guy over there buy cigarettes, that lady over there buy cigarettes. How can you control anyways, legality. Let's get back to talking about art.
Well, if just speaking on that, if they could find a way to make money by letting a person not wear their seatbelt, then it would be legal again. It's
Yeah,
all about
exactly,
money.
right.
They can't make any money by you not wearing your seatbelt. In fact, it proves it causes more harm, and then it's more of a burden on everyone else. So yeah, but if you could pay like some sort of toll, like a statewide, you pay so much money a year and you don't have to wear your seatbelt, like they'd legalize that shit if they could make money off it.
Well, I think even if you said it if you look at it this way, they say, I hate wearing it. I hate wearing the seatbelt. It makes me feel like somebody's trying to, but somebody said it like a midget is on your back trying to choke you.
Mm-hmm.
Just some. But I just never liked it. But if I could pay a fee, like you said, and then I write off in my insurance that if I'm knocked down because of the helmet or the lack of the seatbelt, then you don't have to put me on life support. You don't have to pay that bill. I'm willing to sign off on it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah, it's always bugged me.
Yeah.
Always bugged me.
Well, and it's just an excuse for them to pull you over. It's like, how the fuck do they know if you got a seatbelt on anyway? That's just an easy, like, oh, did you have your seatbelt on? Did you just put that on? It's just a easy, get at your wild card to pull you over.
I've argued my way out of that. I just was like, no, I had my seatbelt on.
Yeah.
And he's like, it didn't look like. I go, well, I'm sorry, but I had it on. I don't know what, I'm so. It's all black interior. I'm sorry that you couldn't see the black seatbelt against the black backdrop and my tinted back window.
Yeah. Go out to the street.
My black shirt, right?
Yeah, go out
Yeah.
to the street and see if you can tell if people are wearing seatbelts. It's like, no, you can't. It's a little freaking 3-inch strap over their chest. Like, good luck. Good luck even noticing that shit. But,
Right.
there's so many of those laws that are, just out there for other reasons. They sell it.
Lights out, son.
Yeah. They sell it for one thing. It's easier to market for one thing, but they're really, pushing it out there so they can get away with other shit.
Right.
I don't know. But
Legality. Laws. Boo.
Anarchy.
I feel I live in Ohio.
Yeah. Yeah, right? At least we got good weather, right? We both got laws, but we got good weather.
Yeah, good weather and dispensaries. I've got shit weather, the polar vortex, and fucking ice fucking everywhere.
A friend of
Like
mine was living out here for like 7 years, and he decided to move back to Columbus, Ohio. And he was going to finish up his degree, and while he had been gone for like 3 months, and they get a phone call, and he yells, "Date!" And he hangs up the phone. And then 4 or 5 minutes later, he calls back, "Degrees!" And he hangs up. It was 8 degrees one night. He was fucking frozen. And he's like,
Yeah.
drunk and yelling, screaming. But it was like, couldn't believe he made the move to go back. But, I don't know. Ohio's a beautiful place. We used to go there quite a bit as kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, the summers, it's nice for a couple months, but the rest of the year, it can go suck a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A bag of dick. Ohio can eat a bag of dick. I hate it, right?
It's it's just the shit state. I mean, think of all our big cities. Cleveland, shithole. Cincinnati, shithole. Columbus is probably the nicest of the cities, and that's just they recently redid a bunch of stuff because it was getting to be a shithole. And then there's Toledo, which is just Detroit Junior, and we all know how bad Detroit is.
So you call them all a shithole except for Columbus, which you call a porta potty.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
That's an upgrade. It's not quite,
It's an outhouse. It's
an outhouse, right? Yeah. It's not a shithole. It's an outhouse.
It was recently a shithole, upgraded to outhouse. We're hoping to get some plumbing ran out to that anytime soon.
It doesn't actually have toilet paper, but it definitely has a spot where toilet paper could go.
It has a really old lady walking really slow. You can run up and use her sweater and just run, right?
I think that's what old ladies are
lady.
for. I'm pretty sure that's what they're still around for. So
stay with the stand-up. It's definitely it's a good challenge. It's a good sort of a good direction to go.
Well, I can't paint worth a shit, so I think artistic way, and I don't play any musical instruments, so kind of pigeonhole myself into doing stand-up.
Yeah, right. I can't paint well either. I just move a lot of colors. I just, I appeal to people who like crayons.
Oh man. So what's do you have any like crazy, I don't know, are there crazy art show stories? Is there like been times where I don't know, man. Like
art orgies or something?
No, they don't have to be sexually crazy, but if they are, that's
there was a night that I was doing art at the Bamboo Lounge, painting live.
Mm-hmm.
And a girl had come over and said something, I really want you to paint me. And I said, well, why don't you just drop your titties in the painting? And she, can I? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So she took her shirt off, bent over, pressed herself into the shirt, and then was like laughing and thought it was cool. So I hugged her.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I've got the paint from her on me, and then damn near every other woman in the place. I mean, probably got about 8 or 9 different women were just coming over. Hey, can we do this? Boing, 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 boing. So it just randomly occurred. It wasn't, it was a wonderful random occurrence,
yeah.
But it was sort of, I didn't go in there, how did I get to see some free titties? I didn't, it wasn't my intent. I didn't hope that it happened. It just sort of very organically occurred.
Now, I got to stop you there because I think in the back of every guy's mind, they hope that happens. Like, you might not have said it out loud to yourself, but you were secretly really hoping that happened.
Well, yeah, not even secretly. I mean, we all, yeah, absolutely. I'm hoping, at any given point that's going to occur, but I didn't have it in any sense of consciousness that I'm going to try to make this happen. It just
like
happened.
Even at the grocery for me, I walk in, I'm like, I'm really hoping there's a lot of hot chicks who just all of a sudden want to pull their tits out in the frozen food section. I don't know.
That happens a lot in California, Keith.
I'm moving. I'm going to start walking right now. I don't give a fuck how cold it is here.
Right? Where you going? The grocery store? Why? Because I'm going to see some titties.
Well, it's 12 degrees
Right.
and I want to go see some titties.
You're gonna be a really slow Forrest Gump. I just
Yeah,
felt like
There's strip clubs
walking.
around here, just grocery stores.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a fun night, and there was a nice little stretch of time where women wanted to be painted naked. It was just sort of their thing. Like it was sort of, that's what and it's interesting. Like with the style of work that I do, that it would be, like I'm an abstract painter. I have abilities to paint portraits and portraitures and that kind of stuff and landscapes. I can do that stuff. But it was interesting when the women were, hey, can I? I'm like, yeah, I guess. Yeah, that'd be great. But it was interesting, like that little period of time where that was sort of.
Was that inspired by the movie Titanic, you think?
Did you see the Titanic? Did you see you watch Saturday Night Live?
A little bit every once in a while.
That little chubby kid who was on.
Oh, Jonah Hill and Leo did the reenactment of yeah, that was funny.
I fucking love that. I would wish that I had, I could just do that with, my girlfriend or like, whenever we whenever you were like, you're mad, like, hold me, whatever he said. I loved, that cracked me up, just to have, just to stand there and humiliate yourself, I'm flying, I fucking love it. I'm not so much a big fan of the movie, but being able to buffoon yourself in that particular style, I love it.
I don't know many guys that actually liked that fucking movie. We're just like, come on, sink the boat.
Yeah.
Sink it.
Yeah.
Although that scene did give me hope. I was like, because I don't know how old I was in high school, I think, when that came out. And seeing that scene where he's like, oh, shit, he's drawn. That's how you get chicks, man. He's like, I'm totally going to get laid so soon. I just got to figure out how to draw chicks naked. In the back of old Model Ts. I got to find a Model T, and I need some charcoal and some paper.
And to be on a cruise.
Well, yeah, I guess the cruise thing probably would help.
A few things. Yeah, but it's one of those. It's he got to nail her, which was all good and good. But I mean, that was the last one, right? He got killed that night.
Well, isn't that the way to go out?
Yeah.
You get a little bit of strange, and then be like, all right, fuck it,
See ya.
There was room for him on that
fall
fucking
into the
floor.
abyss. Hold on to this necklace. I'm going to fall into the abyss.
Yeah. Oh, Leonardo DiCaprio. He's a fucking good actor. That's probably like one of the few movies that's on the low end of the list of movies he's done.
Well, he acted well in it. It was just a story that we
the
didn't
plot
want
line, But again, like I haven't seen it. I only saw it that one time that I'd ever seen it, But I don't know. I'd be kind of curious to rewatch it again. But yeah, he's a stud actor. He gets it done.
Yeah.
I watched the Gatsby one, which if you had offered it up, if anybody had offered me a free ticket to it at the theater, I'd been like, nah.
Yeah.
I picked it up on like Netflix, watched it, and was really quite surprised how good it was. I had never even read the book, but.
Yeah, I actually, same thing. I didn't have any real desire to see it, and I didn't hear great things about it, but then I decided to rent it one week and actually I thought it was really good. And I don't remember the book, but, it was one of those books they read in school that I remember hearing people talk about reading, but I didn't actually do. So
I was always too high to remember much of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to remember shit when you're high.
Yeah.
The brain shuts down.
Yeah. Yeah. What?
What were we talking about?
High school.
Luckily now as an adult, I never forget anything. Everything works flawlessly in my brain, right, Keith?
Yeah.
Especially on the show. Yeah.
What?
Go down alleyways and, know exactly how I got there and what the fuck we were talking about. That happens all the time.
What? Yeah. What?
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 Wait, what was I talking about?
Cool. So, it was, what do you got going on? Anything you're back in the art, you're doing the Ray at Night stuff quite a bit now. Yeah,
I've been doing the Ray at Night stuff. I think I've done 4 or 5 months now, and then, which is, just for something to do. It hasn't really been paying off financially, but, it's something. And then I was supposed to do the Raw. There was a Raw event in San Diego that I was supposed to do, but with that you have to sell tickets, and I wasn't able to sell tickets for it, so that kind of fell through. But I don't know about that. I don't really know what path I should be taking as far as like what shows to do and where to show art. And I'm also, trying to improve just online sales too. Then,
It seems to be one of the smarter things. Like, it's funny. I call myself a primate when it comes to technology.
Uh-huh.
And if I find an app I need to load it on the computer, I can do that and that kind of stuff. But as soon as something changes and does this, like, get very used to running, as an example, even Facebook.
Yeah.
I do this, do that, do this. My results will be this, this, and that. Then they change what happens.
Yeah.
The algorithms of, like, Google. They changed all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I used to be able to promote myself and get myself kind of out there and up the top of, like, Google searches and so forth. Then they changed all the footwork you did. They negated it all, and they started brand new. It's like, all right, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
But just that the ever-changing goalpost kind of thing for me is difficult. But like they say, like, you're doing the Etsy sales.
Etsy. Yeah, most of the stuff's through Etsy.
Number one art selling website in the world, and it's so random.
Yeah.
How do you promote yourself on it? How do you get yourself seen there? I don't know. Being an artist for years, I know some artists that are very, very successful with it. It's so funny. Like, how do you get noticed? What niches you into to the limelight? How do you get seen? So it's a complication, and it's one of the things with art where if you're not out there hustling it, presenting it to somebody live, and it's always the most rewarding way to have art be seen or to be purchased ever, is like somebody sees it and they have that visceral reaction. They see wow, they really love it, or they're really moved by it one way or another. So it's always been a kind of a very cool thing. But like trying to sell it online, I would gladly sell like a $500 painting to somebody for $200 if they love it personally.
Uh-huh.
But then, like, online, it'd be like, yeah, there's no, you didn't see it. You kind of saw a picture, and I respect the compliment of the purchase, but I like the interaction of hearing the response and what it is that they like about it. So
yeah,
it's a funny thing, like art being a business.
Yeah,
like where we keep looking at it as, oh, I could sell this for $500. I could sell that for $1,000. I could sell that for $1,900. It's kind of like, the creation of it. And that's sort of like the shift and change I want to make more recently, is the idea that I want to limit what I have to put out monthly so that the freedom of producing art becomes more about the art.
Yeah.
And I think it would be, it get me back to a very primitive manner in which I produced art, and which was kind of where I used to produce art from this very sort of, like, it was I don't know, I did that City Beat story, and it was like, I was in my 40s, I was in my mid-40s, and they called me a child, like I had this childlike behavior, I just like, looking around, oh, squirrel, kind of like, oh, kind of thing. But that's how I paint too. I'm very sort of, hey, this seems like a good idea. The music is up, and I'm producing, pushing the paint, and I want to, mix mediums. I just do it, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't. But I kind of almost fearlessly. So I kind of want to get back at that.
So what venues, like, what are the venues for selling art in San Diego?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, like gallery representation in San Diego for me would be, Thumbprint Gallery.
Uh-huh.
And I've always liked them. They do a great job. But then venues, they're odd. Like, I would say I was on the pulse going back 4 or 5 years ago. I was out nightly. There's Mars Volt down in the barrios. So there's some new players in the market of sort, but I used to always, like, Zanzibar coffee shops. I used to put my work into restaurants and bars and different events. Like, a lot of people love the art walk. I think it's too busy.
Is that the one in Little Italy, or?
Yeah, the Little Italy. They're moving that down into the over there in Point Loma.
Okay.
Liberty Station.
All right.
That's a beautiful place. I would have started that myself personally years ago if I had the capital.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful location for that kind of event. You're allowed to, wander, and you don't feel compelled to have to move because we're bumping into each other.
Yeah.
And as an artist, it's interesting. Like I'd like to start a grassroots thing, like where we show up at a park and call like an artist park, create artist park where, like there's Dog Beach.
Uh-huh.
Why not an artist beach? There's dog parks. Why not an artist park? I wouldn't be opposed to the Chargers moving out of San Diego and for the city to give the artists of San Diego the stadium. If they move them downtown, you let the artists take over the old one.
That would be crazy.
And,
I don't think they would ever do that.
What's that?
I don't think they would ever. I can't see them ever doing that, but that would be amazing if they did that.
Well, you think about it, like why, everybody likes art in one form or another.
Yeah.
It's from comedy to music to food to visual arts to dance. Everybody does, but not everybody likes football.
Yeah.
Some people, they're fanatics. The people who like football love it. It's good. Right? Let them enjoy it. But that's only a small populace of the population.
Yeah.
Like a third. A third of the world watched, the Super Bowl. And it's like there's still 2/3 of the other people that were walking around, doing something else.
Yeah.
So if you thought like the world's largest drive-in was at the stadium, what a fucking cool thing to do, So there's enough. I think I have enough creativity to put 4 or 5 very good events together there, which aren't just about me, but they're about, bringing families and kids and people out and filling the stadium and filling the, creating a synergy in San Diego. And I think you as an artist can take a look at it and go, oh, what do I get to do, or what I can be part of what, and some of the events that have been, lacking. San Diego has a lacking in regards to some of that stuff.
Yeah,
it's one of the hardest cities in the country to make money as an artist.
Sweet.
It's very complicated.
Yeah. I mean, that would be amazing if they turned Qualcomm into like some kind of art, a venue people can use for different types of art and to do creative things like that. That would definitely put San Diego, like that'd be huge for the art community in San Diego. I mean, that would definitely, I don't know of a place. I'm not familiar with a place anywhere else that even has something like that. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything because I don't know a whole lot. So, but
there isn't really like on a mega sort of scale like that.
Yeah.
You think about it in tourism.
Yeah.
Once a month, you have an art event which releases a couple independent films, which has 6 bands, which has 12 comedians, which has food trucks, which has local breweries, which has 150 local artists, 200 local artists, T-shirts, you name it, jewelry, you name it, like the world's largest kind of bazaar or flea market, kind of like that thing, but all these real high quality events going on, jugglers, dancers, all these things going on once a month. You could do a 2-3 day. Do you remember Street Scene?
Yeah.
So like Street Scene in San Diego for 10 years was a national event.
Mm-hmm.
People were coming in town, but politics, a bunch of things occurred and negated that event. Now it's no longer.
Yeah.
Art on Adams probably might be for me one of my favorite art venues or art events in San Diego because it's very sort of grassroots.
Yeah.
You like art, you show up, you find a venue, the guy who owns a hair salon or like the lady who owns a hair salon, a coffee shop, and you ask if you could show your work, and that's okay, and it's sort of, but every artist goes out and hustles their own sort of space and their own thing, and then people that know they can go down and visit these. I can walk into that bar and I can get a drink, and there's going to be an artist in there, and then I can leave there and go listen to music on the street, and I can see performers, and it's a great event. It's a great art event. It's very reminiscent in New York, years back, where you could just take a stroll, grab you and your girlfriend take a walk, and just walk around and visit food vendors, different ethnicities, and that's that kind of thing. Like San Diego, for me, there's tremendous talent in San Diego artistically.
Yeah.
It's tremendous, and it doesn't seem to have that. Hey, let's be bigger. You know, it's almost as if, you know, one of my big pushes lately is to see, I'd like to see some high to-dos with some entertainers buy the SeaWorld and change it from being that, you know, the fish and the SeaWorld, the sea culture, and turn it into a music venue.
Yeah.
And music and arts and all those other things. So getting away from, you know, like, you know, Blackfish and some of that, the reasons why we shouldn't support the, you know, SeaWorld, and just turning it into an art venue.
Yeah, that would be cool too. So, how much money do you need to raise to make all this shit happen? like,
like
we'll just
$3.2 billion.
Okay, $3.2 billion. We'll get that Kickstarter started, and we'll see if we can turn SeaWorld into it.
I'll tell you what. Now, here's the funny thing. So $3.2 billion. What we're going to do is we're going to create a train from Austin to San Diego, Austin, Texas to San Diego.
There you go.
And then and then on both sides there's two venues that are large like that. So as an example, you have a holiday pass every 6 months. You can get on that train and you can go. You're going to watch. You know, you spit a couple of bands, Kid Rock in Austin, but then you want to come to San Diego to see, you know, Rage Against the Machine. You know, and you boom, boom, and then you just take it back, and it's just this open transit thing.
Yeah.
So that's what the $1 trillion gets the train, but the locally here, how much would it have to be? I'll put the numbers together and see what it says.
That'd be insane.
So on a smaller scale, the old sports arena.
Yeah.
Start there. You know, and you know.
There are a lot of old venues, like they're kind of, and they're not really up. Like Qualcomm is pretty dilapidated. I mean, I don't go there.
It really isn't. I mean, people say that. They say it all the time. But really, it's dilapidated, and you're letting all those people into it.
Yeah.
There's no way. The lawsuits themselves. It's just somebody griping. Here's the thing. They put the Padres moved downtown because the Spanos family owns the stadium. Mm-hmm. So all the money from all the parking for the 85 baseball games that were there every year went to the football. It didn't go to baseball.
Yeah.
Because of the lease that the Padres had at Qualcomm. So they couldn't afford to stay there and compete with the market. So they moved downtown. They still use the city's money to build the stadium downtown. But, you know, like you think about it, like we want to open up a venue that's going to house 10,000 people. And we want to employ locally, let's just say a quick number of 1,200 people on a rolling sort of schedule. Mm-hmm. And then the only thing we're going to do is we're going to buy beer and our foods and all our stuff and all our marketing materials from local businesses. We're not going to send out anything to any other city. We're just going to try to make San Diego stronger. Yeah. And then increase tourism. And just, you know, could we go as a group of artists and say to San Diego, hey, we want this money? They'd be like, no. But yet big business has the, green light. Well, look what it does. We'll give art a chance in San Diego. Yeah. Art's a tremendous draw globally, historically. Art is, you know, what it's really about. I mean, other than, you know, like food, I mean, we need there's agriculture. We need that thing. We need some building and that but people want to be fed, they want to be housed, they want to be, you know, clean and warm, and then they want to be entertained. Yeah. You know, but we get very strict on the rules, and they let them watch TV. For what? So they can buy more of your product? Yeah. Well, how about make it more real? So, I don't know. I do have an anti-establishment thing going on as of late.
That's okay. I think that's a common trend amongst at least a lot of people that Keith and I know.
Yeah, every comedian I know, every artist I know, they're like, again, it goes back to fuck the man. I'm not going to work for the goddamn man anymore. And
yeah.
It does have that.
I mean, San Diego's kind of weird because there are the art communities and like OB, and there's the kind of chill San Diego, but then you have the military and you have like a lot of money, you know, on the coast. It seems like there's kind of a big split in San Diego. Like there's rich conservative, and then there's the, you know, just kind of laid back, more liberal kind of communities. But it seems like the more the money, I mean, not surprising, seems to be like controlling a lot of what happens, you know?
Well, it's funny. It's a very conservative city.
Yeah.
For growing up on the East Coast. You grew up in Canada, correct?
Mm-mm. I grew up in Palm Springs, in Southern California. I don't know.
You ever lived in Canada?
No, I'd love to move to Canada, but no, I've never been to Canada.
Oh, that's funny. I thought for some reason, I don't know where I got that, but it's very conservative for such a large city, and for such a city that we're on the water.
Yeah.
If you were living in middle of the country, like some podunk place in Ohio.
Yeah.
And you heard of San Diego, and you'd be like, oh, it's got to be like surfing, beach kind of thing. And it's got that temperament, that kind of thing. But you would think like politically it'd be very sort of lax too,
Yeah.
but it really isn't. I mean, there's sort of like a defined thing. We don't want too much tourism. I have enough money in my pocket, so I don't really need tourism.
Yeah.
So I think there's some overwhelming control over how you think about like New Orleans, Mardi Gras.
Mm-hmm.
Why not create an event, that's in San Diego, like Street Scene was working its way to being probably one of the best music venues or music scenes or music events. It was competing with national music events.
Yeah.
And how did anybody let that go?
Isn't Comic-Con in San Diego though?
Yeah, but in that case, so it's trying to be pulled from San Diego. That's other cities trying to get it to leave. It's a great event. They're always saying that the convention center is too small. Well, the event sells out every year.
Yeah.
Sells out for the whole weekend. People come into town for 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks for that event. It's too small. What? It sells out. That just means there's a draw.
Yeah.
I wasn't smart enough to get. Next year I'm going. But so they just keep the momentum. If you make it so that 40 or 150,000 people can get into it, it won't sell out. And now it's not, for some whatever reason, I'm not that excited about going because it wasn't a sellout.
Yeah.
And then people they lose interest in it. Make it an event. Keep it as it is.
Yeah.
Let it be what it is. And some other city wants to start their other one. Yeah, great. But which they do. They have 2 or 3 of them nationally now.
Yeah, I think there's like a New York one and
San Francisco.
Maybe, but nerds will travel and they will save up, and they go all out for those cons.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a great event. Now that's another there's no parade. Like I try to propose a parade before the event.
Mm-hmm.
Now that would be a fucking gas watching people start like at the top of 5th Street, near Broadway, and walk to the convention center in costume.
Shutting down streets is a son of a bitch, though.
Yeah. So I'm not able to get into the event, but I definitely want to see those people, walking, seeing the costumes, and then just draws more people to the exterior businesses.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they don't really seem to do a whole. There doesn't seem to be that kind of culture in San Diego. Like it's sparse, it's like kind of scattered, but there doesn't seem to be like the people coming together to really push something like that into existence,
Yeah, it's funny. Like I talk about it a lot, and it's really funny. Like, and this is like one of the more interesting things about how I feel currently. I feel like I've been an observer for a very long time, living somebody else's life, and more recently, I have this thing that I'm going to get involved. Like I've always felt like I was involved, but I can look at it and go, I really wasn't. You know what I mean? If you think something, say it. Because if I just think it and never say it aloud, it'll never come to fruition.
Yeah.
So you gotta say it aloud. But I was out at an event and I was talking to, matter of fact, it was Johnny Tran, and he goes, "We're just waiting for you, Rich, to start." And he was being funny, but I was like, "Oh, yeah, maybe."
For you to
so
start.
it is that kind of until you decide,
Yeah.
nobody's gonna build the stadium. Nobody's gonna give it to the artist unless somebody asks for it.
Yeah.
Well, fuck it. I'm just gonna ask for it. I'm gonna go put together a proposal and just go ask for it. You know, here's one big thing. I like the idea of the Chargers moving if they want to.
Yeah.
I love sports. I'm a fan of sports, but I'm not a fan of big corporate sports.
Yeah.
You know, the NFL is a nonprofit.
Yeah. Yeah. NFL,
Like,
PGA, and what was the other one?
NHL.
NHL. Yeah.
Yeah, nonprofits.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You know, how can your employees make hundreds of millions of dollars? The owners make hundreds of millions of dollars, and it be a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And
I've paid a lot of money to those teams, and I know that somebody's profiting off my ass.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know, well, in order you gotta say it doesn't have any profit. It costs us $5 million to run it. Well, that means there's 5 people in the room. We each get paid $1 million to run it.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You know, how about, you know, so for those kind of reasons, I'm not a big fan of it. So I think let the Chargers go.
Yeah.
Let them move to another city. Because if you think about it, only like 10% of a household will ever buy a ticket to go to a game.
Yeah, it's always blacked out in San Diego because they don't
out.
sell
So,
enough
you know,
tickets.
If you think about it, a great concert down there.
Yeah.
So you think about the home games, you need 9 home games to subsidize that stadium. So you have 9 concerts. So fuck it, we're going for 12. We're going to have one every month.
Yeah.
We're going to have a 2-day event or a 3-day event at the stadium. We'll have the concert on Sunday, but there's a carnival or like a circus or whatever, you know, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There's a big outdoor barbecue, smaller music festival on Saturday, and the big shows on Sunday, whatever, any sort of arrangement. But as well, you build the stadium, make it bigger, put like 150,000 people in it, and make it a Super Bowl-only stadium.
Yeah.
We don't have an NFL franchise. We're building a stadium that's strictly for the Super Bowl. So that means all the wiring, all the television, all that other stuff, all that accessibility. It's just right here. You have to drive trucks in. All this stuff is here all the time, ready for you guys.
Yeah.
You know, and just run a big, huge event that you can still, you know, create tourism with. Far more people will come to San Diego for music if we produce bigger music events and bigger art events.
Yeah. I mean, people go to fucking Coachella Valley during the summertime for 3 or however long day festival it is during like the worst time of year to be in the desert, and that's successful as fuck. So yeah, if you set something up in San Diego where it's nice weather pretty much all the time, that would be out. So you're doing a lot of big thinking as far as venues and you know, things like that. It seems like
it's funny, like I can't help myself. It's sort of, I like to think, I'm forever thinking about rearranging stuff. It's like the V6 diesel aluminum body pickup trucks that are coming out. I was working on those like 8 years ago, like just thinking about, you know, aluminum body vehicles, taking the weight out, getting the better gas mileage out of pickup trucks.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't successful at creating one, but I mean, it's funny that it's coming up now.
Yeah.
A lot of big money stuff, but I don't know. Again, just got to stay focused, get the drama out of the life, and
shit.
I'm not going to argue over the slice of pizza. I'm going to argue over the pizza company. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look at the bigger stuff.
Yeah.
And then you got to stay focused on creating enough capital or keeping your life going financially, which is, I get a little distracted on occasion. So.
Yeah. I don't know. It's easy to get distracted, especially if you have like a lot of passions. It's hard to kind of section those off and make sure they don't interfere with each other.
Often I feel like I'm in a playground with a bunch of squirrels. Ooh, squirrels.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the ADD of life.
Yeah, right. It's, and again, like I stopped watching television years ago, and more recently, I'm not drinking, not smoking weed. Just I stopped drinking coffee. And it's not that I'm, anti any of it. I look to vacation and go get high. That would probably be my thing. But like on a day-to-day for me, I'm trying to keep myself kind of in the mode that, I want to be aware of the conversations that I have so that tomorrow, we had a couple of drinks, we talked about solving all the world's problems, and tomorrow we'll forget all about them.
Yeah.
But if today we have this conversation, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'll be it'd be it'd be more likely that I'll remember the details of those conversations, and I'll be able to act a little bit more each day towards an end resolve.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, instead of just being lost in the ether like other ideas that aren't written down.
Right, exactly.
Remembered.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
Lost in the ether of it all.
I use I'm obsessed with using my phone just to take notes. The reminders app is like full of shit. 'Cause anytime there's like anywhere I am, if I come up with an idea or inspiration hits me for something or whatever it is, I have a place where I can, jot it down because I forget stuff all the time. But,
Do you reference it much though?
What's that? Yeah, I go back to it. I just actually went through and reorganized. I use it all the time. Yeah, I constantly go back through it and reorganize it and then see which ideas it's time to implement now or ones that just can sit there and then when the time's right. But I try to make a point to go through and
revisit it.
Yeah, and I have like a marker board, a to-do list, because the thing with working the day job and then doing the podcast and all the other things online and doing like artwork is like time is at a minimum. So I have to I've had to like figure out how to be super productive or not productive, but well, I guess that too, but just efficient with what I do. So right. Like I have like a marker board in the living room that has a to-do list that I, go through, and it has important reminders of things coming up as well as projects that I want to get done throughout the week, and just so I'm on top of things. But which is for being in the creative process where you're not thinking about those things. It allows me to be in the creative process more because I'm not constantly having to, make sure I remember that I have, whatever, I have work the next day or I've got a bill due or, whatever it is. Like I don't have to think of those things because they're in my system of remembering. Right. But if my phone went dead, well, I guess I'd still be okay. But yeah, it's I found that's something that I did back before when I was doing shows the first time. I was kind of doing a similar thing. Is a book I read. It's a guy that would go to different CEOs. The book's called Getting Things Done. I don't know if it's sitting right here.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes to CEOs and tells them how it kind of trains them how to be efficient and cut out all the bullshit. And I went super hard on like just following every last detail of what this guy, recommended. And it worked like crazy. But over the years, I've kind of figured out the tricks that
work for you.
Yeah, that work best for me and kind of mold it in my own way. But it's still, that's helped me more than anything, just being able to use my time more efficiently. But now it's hard I'm not used to taking time off. Like I have to find a place where I don't burn myself out because I'm doing so much where I have to like still unplug from everything. Cause especially online shit, it's like it's always accessible, like Twitter and Instagram, Facebook, all that shit. Even though it's part of what I would consider my job, quote unquote, for my art and the podcast and everything like that. It's still, because it's so accessible and in my pocket, it's hard to just unplug from all that and just not focus on it. Which I've started doing meditation too, which helps. It's like I'm finding ways to like kind of concentrate those moments to make them more effective. But who knows? I don't know. It's working for me now, so we'll see what happens, in the future as things progress. But
are you Mac or PC based?
I use all Apple stuff.
Okay, yeah. But I made that switch. I used to be, kind of across the board. I used to use both and so forth, and I was like, I just want one little language that I get and one sort of manner in which I visit all of those little things. I'm horrible at Twitter. I still don't get it.
Yeah, I didn't even know you had a Twitter until you retweeted the post from today. I was like, oh, he does have a Twitter.
I mean, it's funny. Like I just don't get it. I don't get where it goes. Facebook. Oh, Ray Taylor. Boom. Oh yeah. Boom. Or it's going to go out and it's going to be seen by maybe a group of friends or just in general.
Yeah.
Twitter, I just don't get it. Like I want to send, somebody a a Twitter, a tweet. I'm like, are they going to get it? I don't know.
Yeah, there's it's its own language, kind of. I mean, I got in, because I'm like, a tech geek. I got in on Twitter early, as well as like other communities, online communities. That's one thing I like about Etsy, is like it is a community of people, so people can stumble upon my work. They don't have to be necessarily directly taken to it. Like my website, they would have to go to my website. They can't just. It doesn't have that marketplace feel where people can just pass by and see something cool. But
Twitter's rough in the beginning, though.
Yeah, it was.
Twitter's real rough. Like when no one's following you or anything, you just sign up.
Yeah.
You might put some profoundly hilarious shit out there, but you have like 0 followers, so you just you're just writing for no one, and you have to like slowly but surely like get into different conversations. Or
yeah, it's like anything else. You get out what you put in. So if you use it a lot and you kind of get used to it. But it's tough, man. I didn't even. For me, it felt like I was just throwing things out into space. Like, I don't know if anybody's seeing this until after a while of doing the podcast, and then we did one episode that got a lot of attention. That's how I met Keith, and that's how I met like a lot of the community that I know online. Started from that, so it's kind of it is hard to know how to do it. I mean, I don't know, and it's not like it's necessarily important. I think for artists, Instagram is a way better social, because it's visual, but it's a way better social medium. But
just even like like the people, like everybody has a preference.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna like Twitter, somebody's gonna like Facebook. Everybody likes their different. They like their Instagram. They like their style, and so as an artist or anybody where you're trying to get people to attend or see some stuff, you want to be fluent enough so that it's at least competently being deal with. And I know I don't have a good Twitter response because I'm always hitting on Sarah Silverman.
I'm sure she sees all of those.
Never. What's that?
I'm sure she sees all of your tweets too.
I would imagine. I would hope so. I would hope she warmly embraces herself, puts one of her delicate fingers down her panties, and thinks of me when she's receiving my Twitter stuff.
I'm sure that's. I might be going up to LA to see her do a podcast. Potentially. I don't know. She was rumored to be on the Kill Tony podcast, which is a podcast that you might like, Rich. It's stand up. It's fucking Keith, what is it?
It's like an open mic
yeah.
format where all the comics they all come to the Belly Room at the Comedy Store, and they all put their name in a hat, and then they draw out certain names, and then you go up and do 1 minute. And then they have like a special guest who's also a comic, and then they, off your 1 minute, they'll critique you or give you pointers or try to give you taglines or just make fun of you mercilessly if you are horrible.
It's hilarious.
What's it, Kill Tony?
Kill Tony, yeah. It's on YouTube and Vimeo, or it's on Vimeo, but you can also download the audio. I watch it. I enjoy watching it because I went up and met a bunch of people that I'd never met before up in LA. People that I met through podcasting, and we actually stayed in a place for a week together, which was kind of weird. We'd never met each other before, in person, but we're going to live together for a week. And we went to the Comedy Store up in LA, and that's where Kill Tony's filmed or recorded. And met a bunch of comics, got a tour of the Comedy Store in LA, and it was crazy. I mean, it was a lot of fun. But that podcast, even though I'm not necessarily into doing stand-up myself, it's just seeing the creative process, especially for people starting out, and hearing a lot of the recommendations and things that the more established comedians give them and talk to them about. It's interesting to see how that kind of applies, just the creative process in general, how that applies to other art forms. But it's a fun show. I enjoy it.
Yeah. Now, when's that Sarah Silverman supposedly thing? That
I don't know. I heard that she was supposed to be a guest coming up, but this is a buddy of mine that lives up there, is friends with the comics that do the show and book the show and host the show. But he said that she might be a guest on there in the future, but I haven't heard back, so I don't know if that, I don't things fall through. Doesn't always happen.
If she Twitters me, I'll send you. I'll forward it to you.
Okay, yeah, screenshot it and send that to me. You can get it printed out and mount it on the wall and frame it.
Yeah, exactly.
She's probably laying in bed, reading the tweets, laughing, and showing them to Jimmy Kimmel, her boyfriend.
Wait, are they
Still
back
banging that guy on the side, right?
Well,
Yeah.
But it's fun. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. I like the. It's interesting. Like Joe Rogan.
Uh-huh.
You follow him at all?
Yeah, actually, that's it's this community that I know online it kind of sparked from Joe Rogan. Death Squad. Are you familiar with Death Squad? Have you heard of that term?
Say that again.
Death Squad. Have you? I don't know. It's like an online community of all these crazy people that are fans of Joe Rogan and fans of a lot of these podcasts, but very familiar with Joe Rogan. I've probably heard.
He's one of my he's got it right. If you say something to him about anything,
Yeah.
Electric cars, and you call him a boob for not knowing about it or whatever, he'll go savagely read about it.
Yeah.
Metaphysics, he's into it. He's into so many different things, but he just doesn't take your opinion
Yeah.
or, media's opinion. He goes out and researches the shit out of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, his podcast, Keith and I have talked about this, probably listened to Joe Rogan speak because I'm also a UFC fan, and, I watched Fear Factor and News Radio. I've probably listened to Joe Rogan speak more than any human on the planet, just because I listened to his podcast. Cool. But yeah,
absolutely.
It's kind of a weird thing to think about, but he's definitely. That's one of the things when I started getting back into podcasting, because I took some time off of that as well, that I saw what he was doing with the medium, just having long format conversations. Usually his episodes are 3 hours long. That it's like, I didn't even know that was an option as far as doing podcasts. Because before it was I'd have show notes and have an outline for what we were going to talk about, is highly planned, unlike it is now. But, huge inspiration for that. And I've gone up to LA to see him do stand-up. And do you know Mike Maxwell? Are you familiar with him? San Diego artist.
No.
He does a lot of the artwork for Joe Rogan, like show posters and T-shirt designs for his Higher Primate clothing line and all that stuff. But he's out of San Diego as well. But I went up to meet him up in LA, and we were supposed to go shoot pool with Rogan, but the show went late, so we didn't end up doing it. But that was kind of a crazy night. But
nice, yeah.
He's Mike Maxwell, cool guy. He does a podcast as well. He interviews artists. That's all he does, is interview artists, and has like an hour-long conversation with them and asks them about, just in general, whatever, art-related things. Good dude. But, yeah, Rogan.
Nice. I will look him up. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you, it's so funny. Like, more recently, like one of my, like, I consider myself, again, like the primate, but I've just, more recently, like I had the Verizon's little hotspot,
mm-hmm.
which ran so slow at my workshop.
Yeah.
Like to the point where it was useless. And then I wanted a hard line, what you call them, instead of DSL.
Uh-huh.
I wanted
cable.
Cable,
mm-hmm.
and they're not available on Miramar Road. I'm like, what? It's not as if I'm in the middle of Ohio, it's like, I'm like, I don't get it. Like, right across the street is the Marine base, and how is there not cable?
Yeah.
And anyway, so I got DSL, and I just recently did that, so I'm getting back into it. Like, whereas instead of watching any movie, you find something real, like a podcast, and listen to what people have to say. And this buddy of mine, Travis Taylor, and he's the one with the San Diego Local Live.
Mm-hmm.
We've done a couple of real fun and interesting things. My point there about all this other stuff about the internet was I wanted to look at it as if it were an art form.
Yeah.
And not so much, I'm watching YouTube. Like, instead of being a participant or a viewer, I wanted to be a participant of it and take a look at it in entirety and use it as an art form to create something, you know, and not to be like it, as I am as an artist, not to be. I like the free form of this conversation, and so kind of like not to be so caught up on everything that I'm doing, but yet trying to create a little bit of something else. And even looking at the internet and like how you question Google, you know, creating questions that are, you know, that are not just for my answers, but for other people. And so, yeah, I don't know, interesting. I kind of like that. That's what's going on with me. Whereas I used to stay away from the technology, thinking it was a waste of people's times, energies, and efforts. But it's really, it allows, you know, you to say hello to somebody in New York, you know, us to talk to Ohio tonight. Yeah. You know, we could take it across the globe. We could have a conversation with anybody if we could get them online or get them into. So it's kind of, it makes society bigger. You know, especially if we can find some truth being said.
It's making the limitations of geography non-existent. Like the community of people I know online are all over the globe. UK, Australia, Canada, Ohio, Texas, Portland. You know, so we all are kind of united by similar interests, but it has nothing to do with where we're located. You know, you're not confined by where you live and what your neighbors do and what your neighbors are into. You can kind of find your own community of people that, you know, hit a lot of the same things that you enjoy doing, or that, you know, inspire you, or that motivate you, or, you know, it's definitely opened it up to where new kinds of communities can form. And I've, you know, it's been interesting to see the progression and the evolution of it over the past few years, just from my perspective, doing podcasts and just meeting people, and the things that we've done, like the 24-hour podcast that we did just recorded a second episode a few months ago to raise money for a buddy of ours in Wisconsin that lost his house to a fire the day after Christmas. He's a single father, produces music, and he does a podcast of his own. But he lost everything, didn't have renter's insurance, so we got together a bunch of other podcasters and got promoted by a bunch of comics and other friends that were also friends of Yuck, the guy who lost his house. And we were able to do a 24-hour long straight podcast to raise money. And we had people call in from all over. Like, we had some crazy drunk guy from New Zealand call in like 3 times. But
we had Bert Kreischer call in from Paris after shooting his show.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's crazy how it's gotten me in touch with a lot of different people that I never thought I would have gotten in touch with. You know, whether it be comics or, you know, just other cool people that I've met. You know, a lot of the podcasters and things like that. It's, you know, it's amazing to see all the different perspectives from people that live different places, but how they're also similar to what your kind of ideals are. I love the internet, man. I mean, this Inspired Disorder would not be anything if it were not for the internet. The only reason I have any followers anywhere is because of podcasting. Not really. Most people don't realize that I do art, so it's kind of for me, it's kind of a change, trying to change how people view me, as from being a guy who does a podcast to be, you know, a guy who just a creative person that does art as well as podcasting, you know. So that's kind of the transition I'm in right now.
Nice.
But yeah,
definitely cool. I mean, it definitely is such a just stand back and look at it and just look at it and figure out what that's what I'm trying to do. I want to stand back and look at it and figure out what I want to do with it.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be almost like looking at it like a blank canvas. What do I want this to, you know, to turn out to look like or to feel like, or, you know, what's the statement that I kind of want to make? And it's not, I don't consider myself overly political or religious or anything, but I've got opinions on various things, and but it's not so much about voicing opinions well, it's just having conversations, like, you know, just kind of getting it out there. I read a book, you'll see it when you believe it. recently. I love it. I would recommend it to everybody.
What is it?
You'll see it when you look at Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Uh-huh.
But anyways, I'm just putting it out to something as another thing. It allowed me to kind of realize that I'm opinionated and judgmental, which I never really thought I was.
Uh-huh.
And it's, but if you have anything to say, you have an opinion and you have a judgment.
Yeah.
But to be critical of that is where it's sort of helpful to kind of realize, anybody can be right or wrong. We could argue, I guess, or I could just keep constantly going, well, I'm not understanding you. For some reason, we seem to be at odds,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So I kind of like to embrace that new part, that like with the internet, kind of get those conversations going, so that at the end of the day, everybody goes, oh yeah, we didn't agree on anything, but I'm not mad at him, or I'm not mad at her, I'm not mad at anybody.
Yeah.
It's just funny how we can be different and yet the same. So
yeah, it does open up just the conversations, the potential for conversations like the online can offer, could definitely open up, different perspectives on things. But, people don't have conversations anymore. Like, that's one thing that podcasting that I enjoy is, being able to sit down for 2 hours or 3 hours, however long it is, and have a focused conversation where you're not worried about distractions. There's not like other things going on, where everybody's sitting down knowing they're going to be participating in this conversation for, this amount of time. You get a much more true and honest back and forth. You get to see what the power of a conversation is, where you can actually discuss things, and it's not it's a multiple path thing. It's not just a one-way street where you're just listening to somebody spout out whatever it is that's inside them. You get to see that bounced off of other people and how they react to it. And most people are text based. I mean, I don't talk on the phone ever. I only text people, but you lose a lot doing that. But I don't know.
Right, there's a ton of misunderstanding in texts.
Yeah.
If you want to send me your address or a phone number, or hey, I'm supposed to see you at 4, boom, fax information, great. I like texting. So I need the address rather than me having to write it down. Oh, there it is. It resides somewhere.
Yeah.
Great. But those whole things like where, okay, well, if you don't want to talk today, I'll talk to you later. And so, I mean, as simple as, oh, I wonder if that meant, oh, I'll see you later. Like everybody inflecting their own personalities into what's being written or read. It's like, it's funny. I've done it with my ex as an example. Oh, okay, well, I'll see you later. Why are you mad at me? Well, I'll just see you later. Like those kind of interpretations of things.
You missed.
So that I like the conversation. It's interesting when you brought up the conversation thing.
Uh-huh.
Like, I talk a lot, but I don't really have conversations, and that used to be one of the good things about life. People would sit around and talk for hours.
Yeah.
Now it's they're interrupted by Facebook. Oh, I got to post this, instead of, well, I thought we were all taking a vacation. Why don't we just when you get back home, fucking tell everybody what you did, instead of like right now.
Yeah.
How about enjoy right now?
Yeah, that's why it's hard for me to unplug, because I always got that phone on me, and it's like I'm tapped into so many different forms of communication that it's hard to just unplug. So it's nice, to do this show once a week and have a nice conversation with somebody new or somebody that I've had conversations before in the past. And that's why, podcasts are fun. That's why people enjoy listening to podcasts, because there is some value to listening, even if you're not participating in the conversation. There's some value just listening to a good conversation. Which it's, I don't know, that's the art form of the conversation is, what podcasting is bringing back, I think. So I enjoy it. I don't know.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, I think we're getting close to the 2-hour mark. I don't know. I know we started a little late, but we can start wrapping it up. How about that? Sound good? All right.
Good.
So where can everybody find you online, in person, all your stuff? Give people all the information so they could properly stalk you.
Cool. Start Silverman first, right?
There you go. Absolutely. I'm going to send her the first episode. I'm going to send this straight to her. Make sure she sees this.
Workshop is up at 8650 Miramar Road. I'm 1 mile east of the pyramid on the same side of the road. And I share a parking lot with the strip club called Goldfingers, so I'm easy to find.
Nice.
And then online, rawartdesign.net. And I also have a second one, which is Raw Art by Rich Walker. But I'm going to change that all up, put it all into rawartdesign.com. I finally bought that website back from an English gentleman that owned it for years, and he would never sell it to me. It's only I wanted it. He wouldn't sell it. He kept it for 11 years and then just let it go.
Yeah.
Picked it up 4 months ago. So I'm in the process of kind of reconfiguring some stuff. And then I've got art around San Diego, a few different places, Salon on 5th, Chiropractique, Tower 23. Got a pretty nice installation down there, the hotel down there up in BB. And I've got work at Last Call over on El Cajon Boulevard, 4977 El Cajon Boulevard. Go in there and say you heard this podcast. They'll give you $1 off a drink.
Oh, shit.
And, I'll make that happen. And then, Bedders, which is a kind of a discount or wholesale bed place on El Cajon Boulevard. They've got some door series of old reclaimed doors, series of art there for sale. So we've got a lot of work out there, and I produce furniture, art, and then random items. Anybody who has an idea. One of the original, it's interesting for me, if Raw Art Design isn't so much that I'm an interior designer at all, but what I liked about what I was trying to project was the idea that if somebody wasn't artistic, yet they had an artistic mind, and they would come to me and say, I really want this, and then I would create that for them. So not so much just a commission piece of work, but yet a collaborative.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing a large modern family portrait where I'm just using cut rings of wood and putting them together, but each ring represents a member of the family, has their color tones and so forth. But this is a collaboration I'm working on with the client. It was kind of her idea, and I'm just bringing it to fruition. So
that's awesome.
So that would be me. So yeah, 8650 Miramar Road is the shop, and then work randomly around town, and then again the website rawartdesign.net.
Sweet, awesome. Yeah, I'll have all the links for everybody on the post for this episode.
Get it.
Fuck yeah, man. It's awesome. Keith?
This has been fun. I enjoyed talking to the both of you today. It was good.
Hell yeah, man. It's been wanting to get you on for a while, so I'm glad it finally everything clicked together and we got you on. And yeah, man. Look forward to seeing you and hanging out, getting to. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think the podcast thing. I'll put it out there for some other people to share it up, pick it up, and yeah, I'd like to we'll revisit this as well. At some time. Sure.
Cool. Perfect.
Keith?
Keith Spurlock 1 on Twitter. I'm also on Facebook. Inspired Disorder Collective, and all that other jazz.
At Ray Taylor, inspireddisorder.com. Check out hashtagshows.com. If you are into stand-up comedy, you want to check out stand-up comedy, and curious to know who to go see. Maybe you don't know who the fun, awesome comedians are. Go to hashtagshows.com. See when they're playing. Is there some sort
of coupon code?
Yeah, and you can always save on my art. If you do want to buy art through Etsy, I'm going to be putting up a lot of new stuff. If you use coupon code INSPIRED, you'll save 10% on your order. So #shows, inspireddisorder.com, all that stuff. It's awesome episode. Awesome episode, guys. And we are gonna. There we go. See ya.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Inspired Disorder podcast. Embedded signals within this podcast have reprogrammed your natural thinking patterns. Side effects may include lack of inhibitions, erectile dysfunction, anal leakage, transcendental communication with beings from 4 of the 7 primary dimensions. In the event of a tear in space-time, please keep your hands down and feet together. Any loss of life or limbs due to interdimensional travel is not the responsibility of this podcast.